Imagine a ghost story whispered across centuries. A story of over 100 people who stepped onto the shores of a new world, built a home, and then vanished. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Roanoke, America's oldest and most unsettling mystery. But what if everything we think we know is wrong? What if the clues weren't about where they went, but about why they were made to disappear? In 1587, 115 English colonists, led by Governor John White, landed on Roanoke Island, off the coast of modern-day North Carolina. They were looking for a new life, a foothold in a vast, unknown continent. Among them were women and children, including Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. But this new beginning was fraught with tension. Supplies were low, and relations with the local Native American tribes were strained, sometimes hostile. Faced with a looming crisis, John White made the difficult decision to sail back to England for reinforcements and supplies. He promised to return within months. He left behind his daughter, his granddaughter, and a fledgling community clinging to the edge of the world. It was a promise he couldn't keep. A war between England and Spain broke out, delaying his return for 3 long, agonizing years. When he finally set foot on Roanoke again in August 1590, he found nothing. The settlement was gone. The houses were dismantled, not burned or destroyed, but carefully taken down. There were no signs of a struggle, no bodies, no graves. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. Another carving, CRO, was found on a nearby tree. The conventional theories are familiar. The colonists, starving and desperate, assimilated with a friendly nearby tribe on Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island. Or perhaps they were attacked and wiped out by a hostile tribe. But these explanations feel too simple. They don't account for the strangeness of the scene. A dismantled settlement, not a ransacked one, and a single cryptic message. Why leave just one word? And if they were leaving voluntarily, why take the houses with them but leave behind heavier objects? The details just don't add up. Let's dig deeper, beyond the textbook story. We need to question the official narrative, starting with the man at the center of it all: John White. His return journey was suspiciously delayed. Yes, the Anglo-Spanish War was real, but historical records show that some private vessels were still able to cross the Atlantic. Was White truly unable to return for 3 years, or was he prevented? Consider the political climate. Sir Walter Raleigh, the financier of the Roanoke venture, was a rival of Queen Elizabeth I's other favorite, the Earl of Essex. The Roanoke Colony was Raleigh's pet project, a high-stakes gamble for wealth and prestige. If it failed, Raleigh's influence would plummet. This brings us to our first unconventional hypothesis. The Roanoke Colony wasn't a failure to be solved, but a political liability to be erased. What if a faction within the English court, rivals of Raleigh, saw an opportunity? Sabotaging the resupply mission would be simple. A few well-placed administrative hurdles, a redirection of ships, a whisper of Spanish threats, all could ensure White's delay. The goal? To let the colony wither on the vine, proving Raleigh's incompetence. The colonists weren't just abandoned. They were victims of a deliberate political maneuver, sacrificed in a power game played thousands of miles away. The dismantled settlement. Perhaps it wasn't the colonists preparing to move, but a sign of a slow, orderly decline as they ran out of resources, one house at a time, before the end finally came. But let's push this further. The word Croatoan is the key. Everyone assumes it points to a destination. What if it wasn't a signpost, but an accusation? The Croatoan tribe, led by Chief Manteo, were allies of the English. Manteo had even traveled to England and was baptized as a Christian. But what if that alliance was a facade? Here's a darker possibility. The Roanoke colonists were not just seeking a new life. They were carrying something valuable. Not gold or jewels, but something strategic. Early English colonial efforts were deeply intertwined with espionage against the Spanish, who already dominated the New World. The Roanoke location was strategically important for privateering, essentially state-sanctioned piracy, against Spanish treasure fleets. What if the colony was a cover for an intelligence operation? And what if a small elite group within the colony had a secret mission? To establish a covert base or secure a strategic resource unknown to the Spanish. Now imagine this mission goes wrong. The secret gets out, not to the Spanish, but to a rival English party or even a faction within the colony itself. This leads to a chilling thought. The disappearance was an inside job, a cleanup operation. The word Croatoan wasn't a clue left by the colonists. It was a piece of deliberate misdirection, a false trail left by the very people responsible for the disappearance. By carving that word, the perpetrators could frame the local tribe, deflect any investigation, and ensure the colony's true purpose remained buried. The dismantled houses. It is far easier to remove all traces of a secret operation by taking it apart piece by piece than by burning it to the ground and attracting unwanted attention. The colonists, men, women, and children, were simply collateral damage, silenced to protect a state secret. But there's one more layer to this mystery, one that feels even more unsettling. It hinges on the sponsor himself, Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh was not just an explorer. He was a known alchemist and a man obsessed with secrets. He was part of a circle of intellectuals known as the School of Night, rumored to dabble in esoteric knowledge. What if the Roanoke mission had a purpose that was neither purely colonial nor military, but experimental? The 16th century was a time of immense scientific and philosophical upheaval. The New World was seen as a blank slate, a laboratory for new ideas about society, governance, and even human nature itself. Let's propose a radical hypothesis. The Roanoke Colony was a planned social experiment. The goal was to see if an English community could be rewilded, stripped of its rigid social hierarchy and forced to merge with an indigenous culture, creating a new, hybrid society. This wasn't about assimilation out of desperation. It was the intended outcome from the very beginning. In this scenario, John White wasn't just a governor. He was an observer. His role was to set the stage and then leave. His 3-year delay wasn't an accident. It was part of the plan, giving the experiment time to run its course without outside interference. The dismantled settlement and the Croatoan carving weren't signs of distress, but signals of success. The colonists had successfully integrated, moving to Croatoan Island as planned, shedding their old English identities and structures, literally taking their houses apart, to build a new life with their native allies. Why would this be kept secret? Because such an idea of civilized English people voluntarily becoming savages would have been political and religious dynamite back in England. It would have undermined the entire moral justification for colonization. Raleigh, a master of secrets, would have buried the truth of his radical experiment, leaving only the legend of a lost colony. The colonists didn't vanish. They evolved. They became something new, something that couldn't be acknowledged. So what really happened at Roanoke? Were they unfortunate pawns in a political game, victims of a ruthless covert cleanup, or willing participants in a radical social experiment? The trail has gone cold, and the silence from the past is deafening. But by challenging the simple stories and looking at the spaces between the facts, we find a much deeper, more complex mystery. The empty settlement on Roanoke isn't just a symbol of loss. It's a question mark that challenges our understanding of history, ambition, and the secrets that nations are willing to keep. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the unknown. If you enjoy exploring the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of history, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. What do you think happened to the lost colony? Let me know your theories in the comments below.